Welcome to mini lesson 13.4, the pen tool 101. Okay, so I'm going to run you through the pen tool. We're not going to use the pen tool in everything, but we will see this briefly used in the next project. The pen tool, I don't find myself using it very often, but when I do need to use it, it's actually a great asset to have. And I'm pretty happy with some of the results you can do with this. And there's people out there that do some really fancy stuff with the pen tool. So just because this is very basic, don't let that trick you into thinking that you can't do something pretty cool with it. So let's look at our program, and oh, I don't have it up. Give me a second. Okay, here's the program. So let's check out the pen tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on the green flag tool so everything clears out. And each of the different sprites, 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one, which is called stamp. And I use the Spanish word for pen on these, just for fun, I guess. And then the stage has nothing. Okay, so Pluma 1, when you press the number 1 key, here's what you should see happen. Okay, you should see the sprite, or excuse me, the pen, I have to get used to saying that, moves all the way across on the x-axis, paints in black, increases inside while it paints, or it's drawing in orange. Then it goes to the right while it draws in purple, or whatever you want to call that. And then it goes up on the y-axis and it's drawing in red. And we're just increasing the size and changing the colors. So what I want you to see is that you can use the pen tool to draw these different shades of color as well as the different sides. And we're using the glide tool. Now you got to understand the pen tool, it can be anything you want, and I put a black dot on here just to draw with that to start off with. But you technically could use anything that you want to for a pen tool, and this can get confusing as well. And I chose a black dot, and let's start over here from the beginning. So when I click on the green flag, okay, and start and press 1, you'll notice the black dot's drawing across the screen. Let me stop the video. If you look real close, you'll notice that the black dot is still down here. That's because the sprite is the black dot, okay? Just because it drew a black line here, that wasn't the actual dot drawing the line. The dot is the sprite. You can see I moved it right over here. Okay, the sprite is the dot. Okay, it has nothing to do with the fact that it drew a line. If I wanted to, I could come over here and let's change it to a plane. Come on, Scratch. We're trying to change it to a plane. There we go. So I'll stop it, start it again, and then press 1, and then the plane is drawing the lines on the screen. Okay, doesn't look as interesting as, well, I guess it is kind of interesting, but the main point is the sprite shows up on the screen as is, but the pen draws what it draws on the actual stage. Okay, let's clear out here, and let's go to Pluma 2, and you'll notice whenever I press the keys, we clear out some of the graphic effects here by using the clear tool. So I press number 2, and then what we're doing is we're just changing the pen color and increasing the size, and we are repeating this motion 200 times by moving the sprite over 1 step and then changing the size and the shade by 10. Some things to note here: the clear tool clears out all of the pen drawings on the screen. So if I come over here and double click on clear, it goes away. Pen up is just like, say you're writing on a piece of paper. If your pen is up and off the paper, you can't write. And that's important because if you wanted your pen to go to this coordinate, you have to have the pen up. If the pen is down and left down from a previous function, it's still going to draw all over the screen, even though it's going to the beginning of a new function when the program restarts. Scratch doesn't take that in consideration, so you have to manually tell it to come off of the actual stage and not draw. Then we set the pen color, set the pen size to 1, then we tell the pen to go down, which means it can start drawing, and then we repeat the loop. Next, Pluma 3, let's go ahead and run that one. And Pluma 3 has a slight little directional controller here. We press the up arrow and I can move it, and you'll notice it's drawing a line, and the line is changing its color by a value of 1 as we draw across the screen here. So that's kind of it for this one, but it's important to see that we have a sprite, and then we have our pen that can draw these fancy little lines here. And let's see, that's kind of self-explanatory. We already talked about that stuff. And finally, we got the stamp tool right here. And press 4. You notice how it cleared it out by pressing on the, or you use the clear block right here. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to tell this to hide. Maybe I forgot to put that in the code. Okay, so we got this right here. This code sends the stamp sprite to 0, 0. And again, we have another directional controller. But what we're doing here, this really has nothing to do with the, well, it does have something to do with the pen tool, but I'm also kind of sneaking in the use of the clone. The clone's pretty cool. It wasn't on the original versions of Scratch. It didn't get implemented until I think Scratch 2.0 and some of its revisions in the first couple of years there. So the clone tool is very, very cool, but it also can lock up your computer if you don't have a lot of memory or some other fancy upgraded technologies that can handle the cloning. I've locked up my computer multiple times with experimenting with the clone. So what's going to happen is every time we press the up arrow, it's going to clone, make an exact copy of this sprite right here. And when the copy is made, we're going to tell it to stamp on the screen, wait 1 second, clear the image, then delete the clone. It's a cone. So let's move it around and see. Okay, it's going to kind of make that cool little trailing effect there behind it. So what's really happening is we're just stamping an image of this sprite wherever it goes, and then when we stamp it, we tell it to wait 1 second, then we clear it off the screen, and then we delete the clone. If we don't delete the clone, even though it's cleared out, it'll still exist in the memory of the computer, and your computer will eventually slow up. I don't want to do that right now because I'm recording this video and I don't want to lose all my work. So there you have it. That's kind of a 2-in-1 trick right there with using the stamp and the clone. Remember, clear your stuff out and also make sure you delete clones if you start using those. Before we close this lesson out, we're going to go through some points about the clone tool. There's a lot of information about this, and I probably should have made 2 lessons, but I'm going to throw it all into one. So here's some characteristics about the pen tool. 1, your sprites cannot interact with the images created by the pen because those images you make are just drawn on the screen. Okay, now your sprite can interact with the colors, but what you're drawing is not an actual sprite. Okay, it's an image on the screen that's painted onto the stage, and your sprite can only interact with those colors. Okay, so whatever you draw does not become part of the sprite, and it does not become a programmable object. Okay, so the only interaction sprites can have with the pen tool is by detecting the colors. Okay, I just said that. 3, images created with the pen tool cannot move on the screen. Alright, so you know that. The stamp that seemed to be moving wasn't moving. It was just an optical illusion of stamping that sprite's image on the stage quickly behind it, which causes it to appear to be moving. Images created with the pen tool cannot store information. Okay, so you can't program an image. That's all we're saying right there. It can't store variables. It has no behaviors. It has no characteristics. You know, it's just drawn on the screen. Okay, nothing complex about that. Well, actually, there is some super complex stuff about it, but we're not going to get into that. All right, so all the images created on the screen with the pen tool. Okay, so all the images created on the screen are going to stay on the screen until they're cleared off with the clear block, just as I showed you earlier. Okay, so if you don't do that, they won't disappear. Next, the line drawn with the pen tool is based upon the pen size, not based upon the size of the sprite that I was programming to draw the pen tool. You saw that when I replaced the little black dot with the airplane. Okay, so it didn't matter that the fact that the plane was big. We were drawn to the size of the pen that was set in the code. Number 7, the only pen tool available in the stage is the clear block. So if you came back to Scratch, went to stage, clear, that's the only thing that can exist right there. So if I was to, you get it, I don't need to run it. Alright, number 8, if the pen is set to being down, it will stay down until the pen is set to up. When the pen is down, the sprite will draw on the screen no matter where it moves across the screen. And regardless of whether the sprite is moved by gliding, taking steps, or goes to various XY coordinates. Okay, so if the pen is set to down, it's going to draw no matter what. Okay, even if you clear it out, it's going to keep drawing. Okay, it'll clear what you have drawn, but it'll keep drawing no matter what. So make sure you move it up. And the numerical range for colors in the scratch goes from 0 to 200. After 200, the colors will start resetting themselves. And just through experimentation, I figured this out. 0 is red and 200 is also red. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And here's some pen tools. I really encourage you to pause the video and go through and read these things. I don't want to say one's more important than the other. We use the clear tool to get rid of all the drawings on the screen. The stamp helped us stamp an exact copy of the sprite onto this to the stage. Pen down is what puts the pen on the screen that allows it to draw. It's not actually a physical pen. I'm just kind of talking as if it was. Pen up means it takes it off the screen and it won't draw anymore. Setting the pen color, it's kind of self-explanatory. The size that determines how wide the pen drawing will take place. And then here you can set the data value for the pen color. You can change the shade. Shade is going to lighten or darken the color. Okay, so it's going to make it either very dark or very light by mixing and matching, not mixing and matching, but implementing some white and blacks into the actual color. And you can also set the pen shade to a particular value. And then we got a couple more, or 3 more. You can set the pen shade to 50. Oh, I already had that one. Oh, change the pen shade by, what's new over here? Let's see, set pen shade to, where I got that one. Change pen size by, okay, we already used that. Again, you can increase and decrease it with positive and negative integers. You can put variables inside there. It's very flexible. And then we can also set the pen size to a certain value. Okay, cloning. All right, cloning makes an exact duplicate of the sprite object. If you make an exact copy of the sprite, everything that you clone will get cloned with it, no matter what you do, which is why it's important to delete the copy of the clone if you don't want to use it for anything complex. Okay, so keep that in mind. Anytime you make a clone, you're making a 100% clone, and it gets everything that the previous sprite had, okay, especially variables and any sort of data as it's moving around the screen. And one thing we have done with our code is that we give a set of instructions that whenever it's cloned, that'll perform those actions. And sometimes you can override anything else with it as it gets cloned onto the screen. And that wraps it up. Again, nothing on stage. You'll program these 4 sprites, have some fun with these, experiment with the code, and see if you can make some pretty neat stuff with the pen.